Hey, what's up guys? It's your host, Tiger Eye Cosplay, and you're watching Nerdosity. Hey, what's up Nerdosity? This is your host, Tiger Eye Cosplay, coming at you, and I'm here with another episode of the top lists of Nerdosity. Since I'm under the wire and sickness and a lot of stuff is going on this week, as well as traveling back to Georgia from Florida, I will be doing a top 5 instead. We're going to be going over the top 5 surprisingly evil and deadly Pixar villains. Before we get into this, I have a couple of rules for this, so let's go look at the rules right now. Okay, now that we're back, let's get right into it with number 5, who is Charles Muntz from the Pixar movie Up. Now, we all loved Up. Literally made us cry in the first 5 minutes of the movie, not even gonna lie, because of that whole montage with Ellie dying and everything. The main villain of this movie was Charles Muntz, who was Carl's childhood hero because of his famous travels and trying to find things that nobody else could. Carl and his little Boy Scout, when they went to see Charles Muntz on his blimp, we understand that he is willing to do whatever it takes to bring back this bird that everyone called him crazy for, even going to the lengths of killing the bird. So when Carl and Russell tried to leave and stuff, Charles Muntz couldn't let them do that because he would get, taken away. So he went to the lengths of pretty much almost killing the both of them. So his death count was almost 3 things, but it ended up being none of the 3.
Any last words, Fredrickson? Come on, spit it out! I'm taking that word back with me! Alive or dead!
Now we go on to number 4, which is Otto from the Pixar movie WALL-E. Now, WALL-E was a sweet movie where I think we didn't even get an actual speaking line until maybe halfway through the movie. Pixar did an amazing job with relaying a story about a robot without using any words. When they went to the huge spaceship in the sky that was keeping the human race alive and well until that they could go back to Earth because the humans pretty much destroyed Earth, they had to leave the Earth and go live in space in this controlled climate and environment on a spaceship. One of the people who made the ship also made an autopilot named Otto, who greatly resembled Hal from the Space Odyssey. But when Wally and Eva came back with an actual plant sample saying that it was good to go back to Earth because Earth was starting to rejuvenate itself, Otto was not having it because I think the president said to Otto to never ever ever let them come back to Earth. So Otto was just technically following orders, but when Wally decided to be the big hero and throw the plant into the chamber to allow the spaceship to go back to Earth, Otto almost killed him. I mean, he pretty much did until Ava fixed him back at Earth, killed Wally, and crushed him in this compartment. Now we go on to number 3, which is Ernesto de la Cruz from the Pixar movie Coco. Now, Coco was an amazing movie. It was very sweet, and it was really cool to see Spanish culture where we haven't seen it before and how we haven't seen it before. But the main villain of this movie, and also continuing the trope of childhood heroes, was Ernesto de la Cruz, who was Miguel's childhood hero and idol because of his music skills. The whole plot of the movie was the fact that because of Miguel's ancestor, Imelda, to hate music, but Miguel loved music. So his childhood hero was Ernesto de la Cruz, who went on to do great things, be a great musician, and pretty much told people to follow their dreams because music was awesome. Miguel took Ernesto de la Cruz's guitar, strummed it to make sure it was okay, and he was transported to the Mexican afterlife. The only way to get out was to get your ancestors' blessing so that he could go back to the living world, but he didn't want his ancestors' blessings because of the fact that they did not want him to play music. So he went to find his only ancestor that he knew was still there that did music, which so happened to be Ernesto de la Cruz, or so Miguel thought. He was really awakened when he got there and realized that Ernesto de la Cruz was Hector's friend and bandmate who killed Hector in cold blood to steal his music and to go on to be the only musician that was there. He also was so crass and brazen enough to make a movie out of him killing Hector, but instead having Hector be the murderer, the almost murderer, because Ernesto de la Cruz defeated him and got away. Miguel had only a few moments to get back to the real world, or else he would have died too because of being in the afterlife for so long. So what Ernesto de la Cruz did was throw Hector and Miguel into a pit where they could not get out, and so Hector would be forgotten by his ancestors, and also to cause Miguel to die as well because of being in the afterlife for too long. To number 2, which is Screenslaver from the newest Pixar movie, The Incredibles 2. So The Incredibles 2 was about a superhero movement to get supers legal again. We follow the Incredible family who gets help from the Devers family, with Winston Dever being in charge and trying to get supers legal again, and his sister Evelyn, who did all the tech stuff. Evelyn Dever ended up being Screenslaver herself and putting glasses onto Mrs. Incredible to control her, which worked. So as all this was going on, she was doing several different acts that would have killed like several thousand people. The Incredibles did not save everybody. For instance, when the L train went backwards, if Mrs. Incredible was not able to stop the train before it got to the end of the track, all of the people would have been shot off the track and inevitably killed because of either an explosion or because of the fall and the momentum of the fall as well. Then when the ambassador and the helicopters were going, the fact that the helicopters crashed into each other, they crashed in general. If Mrs. Incredible wasn't there to save, they would have all been killed as well. So that's probably about 10 or 15 people right there. And then when the huge ship was turned around by Screenslaver to crash into the mainland, she would have killed off all the superheroes that were in that ship and a mass amount of people who were by the mainland or in the buildings or whatnot who didn't get out quick enough or didn't realize that they had to get out in the first place. So that was probably a couple of thousand people there that could have died. She didn't end up killing anybody, but she was explicitly okay with that, especially in the part where she was in the plane, where she explicitly said that she was willing to kill Mrs. Incredible by causing her asphyxia. So her body count would have been incredibly high if the superheroes were not so good at what they did.
Hypoxia. When you don't have enough oxygen, things seem really silly. Things get sillier and sillier, and then you die.
I don't want to die.
Ah, nobody does.
Before we go into number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Which brings me to number 1, which is Syndrome from the first Incredibles movie. Now, Syndrome was by far the most evil and deadly Pixar villain, and I say that because not only was he willing to kill so many people, he actually succeeded in killing a crap ton of people. Syndrome was Buddy from the beginning of the movie, who was shirked by Mr. Incredible because Mr. Incredible worked alone. So 15 years later, he killed off so many heroes, like hundreds of them, including a superhero named Gazerbeam, who we actually saw the skeleton of in the movie. He was also willing to kill Mr. Incredible because when he blew him up and the robot said that Mr. Incredible was exterminated, we saw that he was happy about it too. So he doesn't even have like remorse for this. And then he was willing to torture Mr. Incredible for information, torture his family for information, because the fact that he has expendable henchmen that he doesn't really care about, like there was a crap ton of henchmen that died in that movie, like explicitly died. And then when the Omnidroid went into the city, he let the Omnidroid do damage for a while, like blowing up tanks, destroying buildings that people were in, wrecking cars. Like, there was a bunch of people in that street which died because of that Omnidroid before Syndrome came in there and didn't take down the droid like he was meaning to. But then it doesn't stop there. He is also willing to kidnap a baby. He has like the highest body count. Top 5 surprisingly evil and deadly Pixar villains. If you believe, if you agree with who I picked, or you think somebody else should have been in there, comment below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more. You have been watching Nerdosity. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.